What's going on, guys? On today's episode, we're gonna talk about filters, and more specifically, when to use filters in Seascape photography. Buckle in, because it's gonna be fun. Might be a little bit of a longer video, but it should be pretty helpful, I think. The way this video is gonna work is partly here in studio and partly out in the field. So basically, we're gonna go out and shoot a location, use a specific filter for that location, and then come back here and talk about that filter or how they work or whatever. So a little bit of jumping back and forth. And we're gonna kick things off with our first location, which is Praia de Marinha. It's one of my favorite spots. And there's some clouds, which is super, super exciting for me. The parking's closed, so I decided to park at Benagel Beach and hike here. But now, for the first time in, well, since I've been back in Portugal, really, the sky is just exploding. And I'm late. Looks like I'm not alone, there's footsteps. Yeah, I'm sort of regretting my location this morning because the sky is so epic that way. The light's good this way too, but the tide's still going out and the waves coming in are pretty violent and I can't get far enough into my location. I've already gotten hammered with a wave once this morning. But I am going to show you the filters. The first filter we're working with is a Grad Filter. Essentially, it's just trying to hold in the light for the top half of the image, trying to even it out. So let's take the filter out and I'll take a picture. And you'll see that the sky is totally overexposed. Let me just slide the Grad Filter in, and it holds in all that light at the top. Massive difference just with Grad Filters. That's a 1.2 Grad Filter, which means 4 stops. Makes all the difference. Okay, here's a second example. I'm shooting straight into backlights, and this tends to be when Grad Filters are at their best, when you have really heavy backlight, lots of color in the sky, and then maybe a darker foreground. So the waves are coming at me. I'm a little bit longer with my lens, and then let's take out the Grad Filter and take the picture. I'll slide the Grad Filter in, and then I just expose for the foreground. And then as you slide in the Grad Filter, you'll be able to tell where is enough, that's enough. Take the next picture. Absolutely massive difference. But I want to talk about why I use Grad Filters right now, because a lot of people will definitely comment, Brendan, you don't need Grad Filters, you can do that in Photoshop. And that's mostly true. You can take one photo for the foreground and then one photo for the sky and then blend them together in Photoshop. It's really easy. I do that personally quite a bit as well. But there are 3 good reasons why you use a Grad Filter, and I'm going to show you the Grad Filter up close. Please disregard the finger marks on it and dirt. I haven't cleaned them yet, but you can see basically this is a 4-stop Grad ND, medium Grad, goes from bright. The Grad starts about here, and then it goes to dark, like that. The reason I use Grad Filters rather than Photoshopping things is, well, there's 3 reasons. The first reason is I'm not artistic. I am not only not artistic, but I'm not good at envisioning things in the future. So when I go out in the field and take a picture of a location, I have a hard time imagining what it would look like if I blended the 2 photos together. I can't imagine what it would look like post-processed. I like to see things in the back of my camera. that's where like my emotion comes alive when I'm taking pictures. That's where I go, wow, that looks really cool. Okay, I'm on to something. So no, it's not because I'm a purist and that I'm like, you gotta get it right in the camera. It's because I don't think I can get it if I don't get it right in camera. The other reason's more of a personal preference thing. I like motion in the sky. And when you use blended images, you sometimes lose that motion in the sky. For example, if I take an 8-second photo and there's some really heavy cloud movement, I'm gonna get silky water and I'm gonna get movement in the sky, and it's gonna show, it's just gonna be super dramatic. But if I blend the two images, I use that 8-second exposure for the foreground to get all that soft motion. And then I've got to remove the 4 stops from the sky potentially, maybe even 5. So if I'm removing 4 stops, that goes from 8 seconds to 4, 2, 1 half second. And that half-second exposure might not get any movement in the sky. But I do understand if people just want to blend. I'm not judging anybody that wants to do that. Okay, so the sun's coming up, which means that even at f16, you can't go 1 second. It's just too bright outside already. So I'm going to switch on my next filter, which is just a pure ND filter. Okay, I've left the grad filter on because I still want the graduation in the sky, but I've added the 3-stop ND. I only need 3 stops because it's still quite dark out. Okay, so this isn't a great photo, but it is a really good example, so I'm going to show you anyway. I've got this rock in my foreground, and I've got the big sea stack out there without filters at all. It's f16, basically a half a second, so let's take that picture. Yeah, it just looks like a snapshot. I still have the grad filter on, I still have the ND on. Let's put them back on, and I'll show you the photo now. Actually, let's take off the ND. Sorry, the grad, we're taking out the grad ND, and I'll spin this now. Now we get, let's say 6 seconds or 5 seconds. And that'll smooth out the whole sea. And then now let's put the grad back in to hold in this light in the sky. First photos, I mean, it's not the end of the world terrible, it's just a little bit boring. Then the next photo, there's a little bit of minimalism, a little bit of drama. You can probably play with that image in Photoshop. And then the third image is probably the best image. So yeah, they make a big difference. Before I get into talking about the ND filters, I need to mention that this video is sponsored by NiSi. They're the filter brand that I use. I'm a NiSi ambassador. I absolutely love their filter system and filters. The thing I love the most about them is they don't scratch. I've had these same filters from NiSi for months now, and they don't have any scratches. They got fingerprints from me, but no scratches. And it's just a good system overall. So thank you to NiSi for sponsoring this video. And let's get into the filters. This is the 6-stop ND filter, and the whole point of an ND filter is to just allow you to darken your scene so that you can slow down your shutter speed or widen your aperture. So there are a lot of portrait photographers that use 6 and 10-stop NDs as well because they're shooting middle of the day and they want to open up their aperture so that they can still sync their flash. So no, it's not just seascape and landscape photographers that use ND filters. There's lots and lots of uses of this. The reason I use square and rectangle NDs in this system rather than the screw-on type system is mostly for convenience. The reason it's more convenient, although I don't really have the right example out, is if you just buy a bunch of adapter rings for your different lenses, it's really, really easy to switch your system when you switch lenses out in the field. If I'm shooting my 15 to 35 out in the field and then decide I want to switch lenses, I literally just take the system, which is on the front of this, I pop it off, even with the filters attached still, switch lenses, and then pop the system onto the new one. If you use the round twist-on ones, you usually have to twist them off and then twist them on. And if you're like me, you really struggle screwing things onto like the threads. And yes, I just leave these adapter rings on all of my lenses, except for maybe this 35. And then NiSi also has these lens caps that just pop right onto the front so that you can stash your lenses like this. Super convenient. It's also a cost thing, as I mentioned. When you buy screw-on filters, you need to buy one for every single lens you have, or every single lens size you have. So if you have this, which is a 52mm thread, you need a 52mm screw-on filter. If you have this, which is 77, you need another one. So if you have 4 or 5 different lenses and they're all different thread sizes, you need different filters for all of them, or you need step-up rings for all of them, and then the convenience factor again comes in because you're switching them all the time. And then finally, when you're using grad filters, the screw-on ones, there are screw-on ones that twist. They're just a little bit harder to manipulate, especially if you want the grad filter not to be right in the middle of your frame, but up or down a little bit. So those are the reasons why I use the rectangle and square NDs rather than the twist-on. And let's head to our next location, which is out west and down a really, really bumpy road. Before I get to my location, which is a totally new one for me, this is just a friendly reminder that you should look at the Google Maps satellite image before you drive to your spot. Look where Google Maps is trying to make me drive. It's like, it's sand. And I think maybe I could probably do it, but I don't know if it gets worse up there. Whew, down bumpy roads are epic places. I honestly had no idea what this location was, how it looked, or anything like that. I was literally just panning on Google Maps and wanted to photograph something new. And I've come to this beach. I can't remember what it's called, so I'll write the title there. And there's all sorts of seascape potential. It looks absolutely perfect. Okay, I'm not sure what this beach is actually called, as I mentioned, but it should be called Secret Hidden Hippie Beach or something like that. It's a strange beach. There was literally just a naked dude playing a guitar on the beach. I don't know why, but there was. And yeah, just a bunch of strange people here. But it kind of makes it fun from a photography perspective and not a naked perspective. I'm really drawn to these jagged rocks out this way, but the seas are still pretty rough and the tide's still going out. So I'm gonna wait a little bit. I got an hour to scout things out. And with the filters, normally what I do this time of day is when there's still like an hour until sunset, I'll throw on a 10-stop ND filter. And that will totally smooth out the sea and create like a really minimalist look to the images. The sea, as you might be able to see behind me, is really, really rough. Using a 10-stop ND will smooth that out and give it a totally different vibe. So I'll show you an example of that right now. Okay, sun's going down, which is the time to show you reverse grad ND filters. Reverse grad ND filters are very specific in that they're really used for sunrise and sunset. A normal grad filter has like a line and it gets from lighter to darker. But at sunset, like right now, when the sun's right on the horizon like this, and ignore me if I start taking pictures because this perfect wave is about to come up. Nice. When the sun's right on the horizon like this, the brightest part of the sky is the sun. It's right at the horizon. So with a regular grad filter, it'll make the sky up top look way too dark. With a reverse grad filter, it puts a hard line right on the horizon, blocking the sun, and then gradually getting lighter as towards the top of the image. So I'm going to show you 3 images. The first is with no filter at all. The next image is going to have just a regular grad ND that's a 3-stop hard grad ND. And then the final image that you're seeing now is the image I'm going to take when the next wave comes up, and that's with the reverse grad ND. Okay, so I think the photo actually came out pretty good. What you didn't see out in the field was how much I struggled to find a photo. There was all this really amazing rock and I was like setting up and getting ready for a photo, and then the tide pushed out and all the rocks were way back on the beach and I had no more foreground to work with. It was such a struggle. But overall, I think the photo works. This is the reverse grad ND I used, which is a 3-stop grad ND. You can, I don't know how well you can see that through the fingerprints, but there's a hard line here and then like a really subtle soft grad that goes down, and then upwards it gets lighter. And it is a really, really specific moment that you use a reverse grad filter for, but it is one that happens enough that I keep my reverse grad filter in my bag no matter what. There are situations where the reverse grad isn't great, and that's when, for example, you have a horizon with the sun coming through, but you've also got mountains or cliffs or anything else coming in. Because the horizon is so dark, if you have mountains here, they'll just be totally blacked out, and a regular traditional grad filter like this is definitely the better move. But in situations where you do have like a direct sunrise or sunset and a clean horizon, a reverse grad ND filter is just so good at capturing all that dynamic range and giving you an image that's really, really dramatic. So I pack that filter with me everywhere. That being said, the kind of point I want to make at the end of this video is that I carry this filter pouch around and it has 10 filters in it. I think that you can probably get away with just 2 filters. I think you can get away with a 6-stop ND filter like this one, and a 3-stop medium grad ND filter. This is 4-stop, but a 3-stop medium grad ND filter like this one. With those 2 filters, you can pretty much do everything you need to, and anything you don't, you can probably make the adjustments in Lightroom to fix. You definitely need an ND filter if you're trying to slow down shutter speeds or do long exposures or something like that. You cannot do that in Lightroom. It's impossible. I also think you probably need a polarizer or want a polarizer. Polarization is something, again, you can't do in Lightroom or Photoshop. It has to be done with a filter. And I was going to include polarization in this video as well, but it got a little bit long, didn't it? So I'm going to make a video totally about polarizers and why to use polarizers a little bit later on. I am moved in, as you can see, which means that the beard's about to go. It also means that there should be a vlog, a photography vlog from here in Lagos, Portugal, really, really soon with a less bearded me. So I hope to see you guys there, and if you have any questions about filters at all, drop them in the comments and I'll be sure to answer as many as I can. And again, a massive shout out to NiSi for letting me be one of your ambassadors. I feel very privileged to do so. And that's it for today's video. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.